Hey everybody, it's Joel Kennedy with Kennedy Violins. So today we're doing a Suzuki play along and we're going to be covering Perpetual Motion from Suzuki Book 1. So remember, at the end of this video, I'm going to be throwing a dart at the dartboard of Just Destiny back there. It will decide what our song for next week is, so stick around for the end of the video if you want to know what next piece is going to be. Okay, so let's play Perpetual Motion. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so this is a very short piece, right? But remember, with Suzuki, every time they have a song in a book, they're always trying to teach you something new. So although this song is pretty simple, right, it still has its own complexities, especially if you're a beginner violinist, because that's why you're here, right? But they're trying to teach you actually quite a lot of things in this song, so I wouldn't discount it at all. This song, if practiced properly, can really make you a lot better player. So let's talk about, a few of those aspects. But before we do that, let's talk about some of the simple things first. So our key signature is A major, right? So we have three sharps: F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. So what does that mean for our finger pattern? Well, basically, all our fingers on the violin are going to be in the natural position, except for our second finger. So if we had to play second finger on the G, which we don't, it would be a high second finger, right? That would be our B natural. Anyway, we would also have a high second finger on the D string, right? That would be an F sharp, right? But we're not playing on the D string, so we don't have to worry about that. However, we are playing on the A and the E string, so we do have to pay attention to that. We have a high second finger on the A string, that's our C sharp. We also have a high second finger on the E string, that is our G sharp. Right? So basically, if you ever come across this key signature again, three sharps, just remember your second finger is going to be high on every string. High, 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 high. But remember, for this piece, you have a high second finger on the A string and the E string. Okay, so for your time signature, right, we have common time, indicated by that giant C there in the staff. So that just means the equivalent of 4/4 times. So that means the quarter note gets the beat. And we have the equivalent of 4 beats in a measure. Okay, so that's the easy stuff. So let's talk about the song a little bit. What the song is really teaching you is they're teaching you a scale, basically. Really what this is that's really what they're teaching you. They're teaching you an A major scale. So they're showing you where to put all your fingers, and they're showing you the relationship between all the fingers. So it would behoove you to notice the relationship between some of these fingers. So from the beginning, so you notice when you put that third finger down, it's touching the second finger. That's a half step, right? So you have a half step between your high two and your natural third finger. So you'll want to notice that. Now, if we go on, we have a fourth finger. That's our E natural. But you notice that that fourth finger is not touching our third finger. It's like this. That's a whole step. So remember, on the violin, you either have a whole step or a half step. There's no other steps, right? If you're playing another step, well, you're out of tune. So there's a whole step, and there's a half step. So notice the distance between that high two and that three. Notice the distance between that 3 and that 4, right? Those are distances that you want to remember. You'll always also want to notice how when you play your high 2, right, it's a whole step above that 1. It's not here, right? That would be, a low 2, a C natural in this instance, right? But no, you're playing a high 2. So notice these differences. When you're playing a piece, especially at this point in your violin career, notice whether something is a half step or a whole step. Trust me, in the future, it'll really come in handy. So just notice these little things. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to mention. Now, another thing that they're doing, besides teaching you an A major scale and your distances between your fingers, is they're showing you how to sometimes use fourth finger and sometimes use the open, right? So for example, the first E that we have, the second measure of the first line, right? The top line, we have a, right? Now, they could have put, but they didn't. There's a reason for that. They're teaching you the distance between 3 and 4, and they're also trying to get you to use your 4 so you can strengthen and get used to using that 4, right? So always use the 4. Well, you want to use the 4 as much as you can because you don't want it to feel weak. It feels weak, right? Well, that's because you don't use it enough. So use your 4 a lot, and then it won't be so weak. So when they tell you to use a 4, use a 4. When they tell you to use an open, use an open. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do. Okay, another couple things is, one of the challenges, it's kind of fun because a lot of kids play these songs, right? So one of the challenges is to see how fast you could play it, right? So the kids are always, when I was a kid, right, then, right? So you want to, as you practice this, try to see how fast you can play it. Don't be satisfied with just, right? After you are pretty comfortable with it, just speed it up. Right? And then you could put it up, you can put it on the metronome. So every day you could speed up the metronome, challenge yourself. See how fast you can play this before you move on to the next song, right? That's going to be really, really good for you. Okay, so 2 more things I want to mention. One is, you notice how they put the dots above the note, right? So that indicates a staccato, short notes. So that means that you basically want to stop your bow in between every note. So, right? If I don't stop the bow, it's, so I would suggest learning this both ways. Why not? You're going to need that staccato technique. So practice this with the staccato and play it in the middle of the bow. Don't play it here. Don't play it here. Try it just in the middle of the bow. But practice it slow first. Right? You're learning bow control, right? Then, once you get pretty good at that, and you want to speed it up, then practice it with more of a legato bowing. Right? So teach yourself, so like I was saying in the beginning of the video, you want to get as much as you can out of this simple little song. Don't just learn the notes and then move on, right? So learn it with 2 different bow techniques. Try to play it as fast as you can when you're playing it legato. Make sure you use the 4th finger, when they tell you to, and the open, right? Because that's how you can test to make sure your 4th finger's in tune, right? And then, what was the other thing? And then, and then notice the distances between your fingers, right? Half step or whole step. So those are some really important things that you can learn from this song before you move on. Okay, so that's about it, all I can say for this song. If you have any questions, of course, put them down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, the video, all that good stuff. So let's throw the dartboard of destiny and find out what our song for next week's going to be. Okay, so I have my impalement device in hand. Let's throw it at the board and see what song is closest to the dart, because most of them are checked off already. I've played pretty much all the songs in book 1 through 4 at this point. So, okay, it didn't stick, but if it did, it would have been the May song from book 1. So next week we're doing the May song from book 1. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I hope the video helps, and join me next week if you want to hear the May song. Other than that, have a really good time practicing. Take your time. Be patient with yourself, and you will improve a little bit every day. See you later.